We're talking with Amanda Leno. And Amanda, so we want to ask you some questions about, specifically about adolescent girls. What effects, as a mental health provider, are you seeing social media and, cell phone use in general? What effects are you seeing those things have on adolescent females?
I'm finding that kids genuinely would prefer to connect with each other online than they do in person. It's not uncommon to hear that kids are riding home on a school bus in silence or on their phones only to get home and connect in a group chat online or via text. So they're not even taking advantages of the times that they do have at school or on the bus or whatnot because they prefer to be on the phone, which you can see can be a problem.
Is that because it's easier to connect on a phone than it would be on the bus, for example?
Yeah, I think it is easier. I think it's less risky.
Yeah. So talk about some of those risks that maybe kids are avoiding, but in avoiding those risks, what are the outcomes? I mean, what are we seeing teenagers struggling with when they don't have that personal interaction?
Well, I think it definitely creates some mental health issues, but also just socially it's a problem because when it is time to actually connect with others, they don't know how. Okay. They literally don't know how. And it's hard because then you're working with a teenager and trying to give them some tips, but if they haven't felt what that feels like to be uncomfortable for a moment, only to be able to feel the reward of the connection with somebody else, it's very, very challenging for them.
And connection, say a little bit about why that's so important for, specifically maybe for teenage girls.
Oh, who is it not important for, right?
Big topic, right? Yeah.
Right. Teenagers come to me all the time and they start talking about, maybe a boy they're interested in or drama at school with some friends. And inevitably, every single one of them says, oh, I know this is just stupid teenage stuff. And I stop them and I say, well, hold on. This isn't stupid because you are actively learning about the most important thing in your life, and that's how to connect with another human. Wow. And so all of your drama is really important, and don't let adults tell you otherwise. It's really key that you feel that out, you feel what another person is feeling, you feel some heartbreak, you feel some love and connection, because a connection with another human is the most important thing you'll experience in your life. And this is kind of the beginning processes of that outside of being raised by your parents.
Awesome. I love it.
So kind of coming from a different angle, Travis is a very empathic, counseling type guy. I come from a law enforcement perspective. I was an SRO in a middle school and a high school for about 4 years. And loved the kids, loved working with them, had lots of problems with cell phones, had lots of problems with the drama. I could be empathic to a point, but is it okay at some point to say, okay, let's put this in perspective. I know this is very important to you, but in the big scheme of things, let's give a little bit of perspective. It's not going to maybe affect everything in your life. I sound kind of calloused and detached, don't I? But
help me with the question a little better.
Is it okay to take kind of a dual approach when coaching kids through these kinds of scenarios, and have one person like the counselor or the mom be really empathic and say, oh, honey, I'm sorry you're going through this, and to have another person, maybe the SRO or the dad, say, you kind of need to buck up a little bit? Is that healthy or is that not healthy? I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, two thoughts come to mind. One, when it comes to cell phone usage at all, I do put it on the parents quite a bit to make some of the rules with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, if we put it strictly in the hands of the teenager, you're asking them to choose broccoli over candy. Yeah. They're not going to do it. So I would say, as far as the maybe hard and fast rules, that those do need to come from the parents, and I think that's okay. And it's okay for teenagers to be a little upset about it, if that's kind of the direction you were talking about.
Sure, yeah, that and just kind of helping them develop some resiliency and understand that this is really important right here today, but in 2 days or in 2 weeks or in 2 years, it's not going to really mean much of anything.
Yeah, trying to explain that to a teenager doesn't really work very well. Okay. Because you're sort of expecting them developmentally to be able to really see the bigger picture. Right. Not that they can, but it's a little bit harder. I think what can be important is to help them understand that emotion has movement. So it's very difficult to stay in the same emotion for long periods of time. Even in the course of us sitting here, we've probably shifted in our feelings and emotions several different times.
Sure.
So I think that's more of something that teenagers can feel and understand, and learning to be uncomfortable and be able to sit in it for a little period of time is really important. I mean, how many of us adults probably don't do that very well?
Right.
So that I think a teenager can understand. They may not understand that this specific situation at school or online is not going to be important in a year, but they can feel it change from moment to moment, and that gives them some hope.
Yeah.
Those lack of connecting skills brought on by the constant use of social media and cell phones, how does that bode for a child's future?
Well, I think in some ways I don't want to demonize it all. Because I think there are great ways to connect online. I mean, even adults are learning that they can find meetup groups, or they can find like-minded folks online and make connections. But it is kind of scary, because it makes you think about, well, if we're only relying on that and we are shutting down the ability to feel empathy, what does that look like in the long term? I think that is a lot of where some major mental health issues are coming from. Connection really, really helps us feel pain with somebody else, which can lessen pain. So if they're not getting that, you can have increased symptoms of depression, anxiety, things like that. Right up to, you could go the extreme version and say that if a kid can't experience empathy, what prevents them from hurting others?